Coming up next on Arizona Horizons Journalists Roundtable, a judge decides that APS can keep its political campaign spending secret for now. And is it time for seats on the Corporation Commission to be non-elected positions? The Journalists Roundtable is next on Arizona Horizon. Good evening and welcome to Arizona Horizons Journalists Roundtable. I'm Ted Simons. Joining us tonight, Diana Nunez of the Arizona Republic, Bob Christie of the Associated Press, and Jeremy Duda of the Arizona Capital Times. A judge decides against ordering Arizona Public Service, APS, to open its books regarding political campaign spending, and this involves, of course, Bob Burns. And the judge basically says, what, not now, huh?
Not now is a good way to describe it. For now. Let's go ahead and go back and follow the administrative process that we need to go through first.
And the administrative process is the full APS, full ACC, I should say, has to get involved.
It's the full Corporation Commission. This goes back to subpoenas that Bob Burns issued to APS more than a year ago now for their spending records for the 2014 election. Everybody widely believes they spent millions, 3.2 million at least, electing corporation commissioners back in 2014. APS neither confirms nor denies that. Bob Burns says, in order to have full transparency, we need to know those records. He subpoenaed them. The Attorney General said you have the right to subpoena them. The Corporation Commission won't sign off on it. So we ended up in court.
The judge is basically saying, get the full Corporation Commission to sign off when everyone and their brother knows they're not going to sign off. So what happens then?
Well, not only have they not sign off, they won't even allow this to go to a vote to decide where they're going to sign off, which is where all these legal proceedings come from. So what happens next is Commissioner Burns' next move was he filed some stuff on the docket today at the Corporation Commission that he wants to put APS's rate case on hold, halt everything that's supposed to go up for a vote this summer basically until he gets what he wants. He wants these subpoenas honored, he wants this investigation to continue, or he wants the other four commissioners to recuse themselves. None of these things are probably going to happen, so in the end, this is probably going right back to court.
It sounds like the Bob Burns and his fellow commissioners there regarding this political spending, they're just simply not on the same page.
They're not on the same page, and that's been known for a while. And to follow the court process means to go through and have it kicked back. And now Burns will say, do this. We want to hear from you. Your public wants transparency. And if he gets his answers, and if he doesn't get his answers, he'll go back through the court, and he'll go ahead and follow that system. And then we have to see whether the judge will say, is that for now?
Right.
Or what are we going to do? Are we going to compel them to turn that over?
Right.
Well, you know, it's a conundrum. It's this big circular thing, you know. The judge says, I can't make a decision on this because the Corporation Commission hadn't made a decision. Corporation Commission won't make a decision. Bob Burns is going back, trying to force them to, and if they don't act, then maybe he can go back to the judge and say, listen, Judge, we tried. I've formally filed, which I've tried before, but this is, you know, it's a mess. And of course, the bottom line is, we've got more than 1.1 million Arizona households and businesses that pay Arizona Public Service electric bills every month that are going to be affected by the rate case. And what Burns says is, we shouldn't give APS a raise when we don't know whether the commission is tainted because of spending.
Now, the problem there, of course, is that tainted spending, allegedly, that went to some of Mr. Burns' colleagues here, is that he's especially talking about spending from 2014 that allegedly benefited, you know, Tom Farese and Doug Little. Tom Farese has been kind of taking the lead here and really frustrating all of Burns' efforts to, you know, disclose this spending, and now that's kind of spilled over into a lot of other commission business now too, where they're fighting over, you know, where they're going to start holding meetings and other things.
It sounds though that by even suggesting that, you know, we need to hold off on this rate case because we're not so sure about the bona fides of some of the other commissioners, sounds like Burns kind of stepping it up a little bit here as far as his criticism and his concerns.
I think you can say that it's been coming for a long time. And you've got these side arguments that are, we're going to argue over where we are even going to have a meeting. But the stepping up means that the sooner I can get a yay or nay, the sooner I can go back into the court system. The sooner, so there's every reason for him to step that up, despite he's hearing from his colleagues, oh, let's just forget about what happened in 2014. No, he's not going to forget.
So all courtesies then, they're pretty much gone by now.
They're pretty much gone. And an important point that we should, this spending that APS won't confirm or deny, that didn't go directly to the candidates. That's dark money spending. That's spending that benefits them. But didn't, that they supposedly are walled off, don't know anything about it.
Yeah, candidates, I think they still say that we don't know.
Legally, they're not allowed to coordinate. But.
Right. All right, so we're on the Corporation Commission here. The Corporation Commission certainly is having its troubles. We talked about this last week. Let's update again the federal indictment of ex-Corporation Commission Chairman Gary Pierce.
Correct. Gary Pierce was replaced by term limits back in 2014. He retired. And this is sort of wound up in the whole APS spending case, because we've known there's been a federal investigation of the 2014 spending. APS has filed documents with the Security and Exchange Commission, say they've been subpoenaed by a grand jury. The FBI has acknowledged that they're looking into certain 2014 election spending. And so now we have former commissioner indicted, his wife indicted, an owner of a major utility down in the Southeast Valley, Johnson Utilities, indicted, and a prominent lobbyist who lobbies for APS and many other groups indicted on some scheme that allegedly kicks back some money to former Commissioner Pierce. They're doing court next week for their first court appearance.
Yes.
What we've gotten from all of them is they deny that this happened, but many people believe that this actually probably grew out of that FBI investigation of the 2014 election.
Yeah, it kind of caught something that they weren't initially investigating?
That's
kind of the idea
If you follow the string, that's where it is. But of course, we have no confirmation yet.
Now, and again, it sounds as though $31,000 was the price here as far as favorable action in front of the Corporation Commission by way of Chairman Pierce, correct? Is that what the allegations are?
That is the allegation, and it doesn't seem like a lot. I mean, if this is true, that wouldn't be enough to cover their legal fees, maybe. But there's also the other side of this, in that there was allegations that there was a land deal that was being worked out, where some land owned by George Johnson of Johnson Utilities, he would give Gary Pierce the money to buy that, according to the indictment. Now, the indictment does not say anything about that land deal going through, so I think we're all kind of assuming that didn't happen, but that would seem to be much more lucrative than $31,000 in alleged payments to Sherry Pierce.
And the actions were what? To raise water rates for the Johnson Utilities, and also to get some sort of tax payment done by way of raising water rates, something along those lines?
Well, and initially the idea of getting this tax rate for him, his actual fee for paying his taxes, was kind of a roundabout circular thing that he did. But at the end of the day, according to the indictment at least, which we'll learn more about, this is very directly related to utilities and the people that are paying the utilities. And that's what I think is going to be in the spotlight. And just when you say, is this tied to the 2014, is this tied to Burns, we get right back into the idea that Burns can embolden and step up the language when you have this indictment that's all tied in together.
Well,
what more could you get into the public eye than that?
That's a really good point. I mean, these are separate stories here, but they all fall under the headline Corporation Commission, just having all sorts of problems here.
And it's an ongoing story. We've been talking about around this table for several years now. This since 2014. This big mess that seems to have embroiled the Corporation Commission. Of course, interestingly, the only one who was on the commission back when these alleged kickbacks happened to former Commissioner Pierce is Bob Burns. The rest of them are all new. So, and obviously, Burns,
right.
No one suspects for a second that he's involved, but it's just this merry-go-round involving the Corporation Commission.
And there's still so much out here that we don't know. I mean, the big question, I think there's a lot of speculation, is this the end, or are there other shoes to drop? We've talked a lot about this 2014 alleged spending by APS, and there's certainly a lot of people who feel like this might just be a way for the feds to get more into that. If Gary Pierce was involved, if Jim Norton was involved, if any of these folks were involved, because the spending that people attribute to APS, we don't know the truth, that wasn't just in the Corpcom race, that was in the Secretary of State's race, where some dark money spending benefited Justin Pierce, Pierce's
Gary,
son.
$750,000 in that failed run. Same election, as you mentioned, the $3.2 million in dark money goes to Faris and Little. I mean, it kind of circles back on it.
Yeah, it smells bad. I mean, whether any of this is true or not, whether the allegations are true, whether APS spends the money or not, they won't say, but it just smells bad, and it reflects poorly on a body that really, of anything in the state, affects every taxpayer in the state, because everybody walks out and picks an electric bill out of their mailbox once a month. And
we should mention the APS being involved in all of this. The lobbyist for APS is
Jim Norton.
Jim Norton, who was indicted here as far as these allegations are concerned. Any word? I know there are rumors, and are they still now rumors on the unindicted co-conspirator?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot flying around. I think a lot of us have probably been hearing a lot of the same names of the same name, but we don't know anything for certain. And of course, you would have to tread carefully around such things when you're talking about allegations that someone's involved in, a criminal conspiracy. Okay,
so basically, Bob smiles.
I'm not saying a word about it.
And we move on. Well, someone not smiling is a lobbyist, is Jim Norton, and obviously he is having. There's major fallout over this indictment. He's losing clients there. His relations firm, his lobbying firm. Talk to us about how this is impacting and just how important a figure this was down at the Capitol, and it probably still is.
To say that he was an important figure down at the Capitol is even minimizing how important of a figure he was. I mean, we even had the city of Phoenix taking a step back. This is Doug Ducey, this is everyone. And so for him to immediately say, I'm taking a step back, for Axiom, his company, to say, we will no longer have him here during this time, obviously, I think the statement said something along the lines that this is completely, we're denying everything here, but we understand the concern. And that was really a very important line in that statement, was that we understand how serious this is.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, this has rattled the lobbying community, and there's been talk. I've been at the Capitol now for 6 years now, and the power of lobbyists in this state is quite amazing, and the power of Jim Norton's is at the top. It's at the peak of many lobbyists down there. They get what they want. When the manufacturers want a tax cut, when APS wants something, when the city of Phoenix wants to fight something off, they go to lobbyists, and lobbyists have the insider, and the lobbying disclosure in this state is really weak. The governor this week said, people are trying to make political hay out of this. Well, yeah, it's political.
It'd be very difficult to ignore.
Exactly. And of course, Jim Norton is a longtime friend of the governor, Axiom, and Sean Noble, who's a big dark money guy who's part of that, has worked with the governor. I mean, this is a big deal.
Sure. When Axiom first founded a couple of years ago, I think we all looked at this as like this was going to be kind of the lobbying and consulting super firm, and the folks with Doug Ducey's ears. You mentioned, as Bob mentioned, Jim Norton, like old college buddies with Governor Ducey. Sean Noble's been connected to him politically since the beginning of his political career. Other folks there have worked very closely for him for his campaign or in other capacities. And their roster of clients was tremendous. I mean, this is the biggest power players in the state. The Chamber of Commerce, APS, United Health. I mean, two of those three are no longer clients.
I was going to say, his name and biography has been removed from the website. Chamber of Commerce cut ties with him. City of Phoenix dropped the firm. Airbnb terminated the contract. Coyotes no longer working with Axiom. Community College District no longer working with Axiom. United Healthcare cuts ties with the firms. Any word on APS?
As of the last thing I read, they had not made a comment, which was a comment in it.
Yeah, so they're still sticking by him, I would imagine.
This indictment is bad for business.
Yes.
If you're the firm. The question is, where do we go from here? Is this the first shoe to drop? Is this the only shoe to drop? Does this create any push for reform in lobbying in the state? Does it bring any push to reform the Corporation Commission?
Right, and we should mention that Jim Norton does profess his innocence, and we will find out more as the case goes on. Diana, this also brings up something that has occasionally, whenever anything flares up with elected officials, especially in certain agencies, the question is, should these folks even be elected in the first place? The Corporation Commission, are we going to see a push now to make those seats appointed?
So the idea has come up, and it's all tied to this. What I think we can say about this is that every idea at this point, when you have these series of allegations going on, should be looked at, and should be looked at seriously. However, this is Arizona. People like to elect.
Yeah.
That's it. They like the democratic process. They like to have their elections. They like people to run, regardless of what happens. I mean, I think we still have our mining inspector that's elected.
Yes, we do.
Yes. So, and you'd have to have a constitutional change. You'd have to have change to the Constitution to do this. Will this conversation happen? Yes. Will the public potentially want to hear it? Yes. I think it remains to be seen the reality of how that happens.
And if this were to happen, would this make any difference in all the shenanigans and allegations of malfeasance that we're seeing at the Corporation Commission? Arizona is, I think, one of 12 states that elects its public utility regulators, and everyone else appoints them. And I think my impression is this is kind of a grass is greener situation for everyone, as the folks in the states where it's elected say, we wouldn't have these problems if they were appointed. The folks where they're appointed say, oh, we wouldn't have these problems if they're elected, because if you get rid of the election, say, okay, the dark money, the APS spending, all of that goes away. These people are no longer beholden to these gigantic campaign donors. If they're appointed, though, they're beholden to one person who appoints them, which in this case would be Governor Ducey, who of course has ties to a lot of the same folks that people are very upset with over situations of the corporation, the Chamber of Commerce, APS, all of them.
Right, and the counterpart in California is appointed, and they've been embroiled in a mess that doesn't have to do with the governor. It has to do with influence peddling by utilities going to the corporation, or to what their corporation commission, their body, the Public Utilities Commission in California. The former chairman has been under fire for some sweetheart deals for going out to dinner with the vice president of the biggest utility in California. This happens. There's a huge amount of money in utilities. Remember, these are companies that are given monopolies. There's no, you can't choose between APS and another electricity company. They are, by the government, by the people, given a pure monopoly, and they're regulated. That's why their rates are regulated. That's why we talk about, this big, long rate case, because they have the ability to get as much money out. If there's not a regulatory scheme, they can get more money out of the public.
But Diana, do people, I wonder sometimes if people even realize that, if they don't understand what the Corporation Commission is doing, and that APS is a regulated monopoly, and that's the group that's supposed to be regulating. I wonder if that's lost on folks.
So there's that old saying that people don't realize much of the decisions that affect their lives until you start messing with their water bills, their trash, and their electric and light bills. And so in this instance, they get it. They absolutely get it. I think they understand that this is a body that should be held to the utmost standards. And at least at this point, there's a lot of dark clouds around all of this. And I keep coming back to these federal indictments and how this will play into this. I don't think you will see Burns. I actually think you're going to see him become more fierce, and he knows why he can become more fierce, because I think that allows him to go to the public even more and say, this is why we need that transparency. Well,
it certainly doesn't buoy the Corporation Commission as a whole. If you're complaining or fighting against the commission, this helps you, I would imagine, all of this stuff.
Yeah, and it's worth noting that Commissioner Faris, the commission chairman, who threw this out there on the appointed commissioners, he proposed a whole slate of potential reforms. Not transparency for campaign spending by APS and other regulated utilities, mind you. That is a very glaring omission from that letter. But he's putting a lot of things out there, because he understands, as a commissioner and as a candidate for state treasurer, I think, too, what the public thinks when they're looking at this entity now. 3 years ago, the public was barely aware the Corporation Commission existed. Now it's in the news every day, and things are getting worse by the week.
Some of those ideas, no private meetings with utility officials. There's a pretty good idea.
There would be a change. As Arizona Public Service has a vice president whose only job is to interact with the Corporation Commission, and is down there all the time, and it knows all those people, and it's in and out of those offices. That's the regulator has to have an intimate knowledge of the people they regulate, and vice versa. So how you don't have private meetings, I don't know. But it's worth it to say that in addition to Mr. Burns, Mr. Little, Mr. Faris, Mr. Dunn, and Mr. Tobin are not at all implicated in this, other than by this smoke that we have about the 2014 election. They all seem to be stand-up people. We don't have any evidence that there's anything bad there. It just looks bad.
Sure, there's the appearance, and that's this policy about the meetings with the utility officials. This extends from a policy that's already in place as of, I believe, January, imposed by Executive Director Ted Vogt on Corporation Commission staff. He said, no, if you got to meet with the figures from these utilities, meet with them in your office, not out at a restaurant or something. If you meet with them at a restaurant, they can't buy your food or drinks. If they do, you've got to reimburse them. And in this policy memo that set this out, he said, I'm not saying this is happening. I don't know. There's really no allegations it is, but the appearances are important. People have to be able to trust this entity.
And we should mention that Commissioner Dunn has said that one good thing about elections is that candidates have to go out there and campaign and have to listen to the constituents. And if you're appointed, you don't have to do that. So there are arguments on both sides.
Yes, there are arguments on both sides. There absolutely are.
All right. We have, speaking of two different sides, we have, first of all, who is State Senator Catherine Miranda?
Catherine Miranda is someone who really likes to fancy herself as a woman of her community, a woman that knows her people and they know her, and she has ties to them that are at a grassroots level. She comes from an education background. I believe she was a principal at some time. She has really put herself out there also in the social media reign, and that's why people are talking about her right now. She put a post out. I believe she had a cap on down and she had the words DC on it. So Miranda is also a bit of a teasing type of person. We saw a lot of back and forth with her when she ran against another Miranda, and there was a lot of that social media stuff. So that people have, there's this talk that is that her taking a jab at Gallego, and we've seen them take lots of jabs at each other.
So we're talking about a state senator who is taking a jab at a sitting member of Congress, both Democrats, and I would imagine this is the kind of thing that if it were come to fruition, super nasty.
Super nasty, but of course this is Ed Pastor's old seat. He retired 4 years ago. Ruben Gallego won that race handily against Mary Rose Wilcox.
Yes.
And he's a rising star nationally in the Democratic Party. You can't turn on CNN and not see Ruben Gallego. I think if Catherine Miranda tried to knock off Ruben Gallego, it would be a tough road for her to win that.
Let's talk more about Catherine Miranda, though. Yes, she's a Democrat, but this is a Democrat that often upsets other Democrats.
Sure, she's at odds with her party a lot. She's pro-life. Probably most importantly, in 2014, she endorsed Doug Ducey and Michelle Reagan, which did not sit well with Democrats pretty much anywhere in the state. So, I mean, if she's going to primary Congressman Gallego in a very blue district, that's probably not going to go over too well. Now, she does have, a pretty significant base of support. There are, factions within the Latino and Democratic communities in that district, but it is still a very blue district. Gallego is an incumbent with $400,000 plus in the bank, and I don't know. That would be, as you guys said, a very uphill climb.
But did Gallego make enough enemies during that last campaign? I mean, we had a debate between Gallego and the congressman and Mary Rose Wilcox, and those folks didn't like each other. And I'm guessing their camps didn't like each other either. And this sounds like a little bit of a spillover.
I think at the end of the day, Gallego has really used this, I will go with the resistance movement against Trump. And so at that point, he brings along with him his party, because that's what the Democratic stance is right now. So when you say we see him on CNN every day, he has made an effort to do this. So regardless of what happened with Wilcox, regardless of what we see behind closed doors, if there is bickering or there are hurt feelings, those hurt feelings are put to the side in politics. He has become the face of where Miranda has argued with them publicly. Now that plays well with her community because this, community that she lives in wants to see people that can actually make their own decisions. So that plays well. Nationally, Gallego has his party with them. I don't see him losing that party support.
And Senator Miranda said in a Facebook post this week, she says, I have a lot of options. I've got 4 years left in the state Senate. I could run for U.S. Senate. We haven't seen a Democratic candidate yet come out against Mr. Flake, a Republican who's up for election next year. She could run for governor. She could run for other office. So she says she has a lot of options. Everybody, of course, suspects that she's eyeing a very, very safe South Phoenix district.
Was a bloody glove left on her doorstep or something? What was that all about?
Well, there were a couple of other interesting nuggets in that Facebook post. She's claimed that her office in the state Senate had been broken into, and I believe her assistant's computer password changed, and she claimed that a bloody glove had been left on the front porch of her house, and suggested that perhaps this is a potential future opponent from one of those races that she mentioned who had done this. Now, the break-in, we have spoken with Senate staff. They say there's absolutely no evidence that a break-in occurred. I don't know about the computer password, but no evidence of a break-in. The allegedly bloody glove, she says that's been turned over to DPS, so I guess we're in kind of wait-and-see mode on that.
A smart politician does not draw attention to himself with something quite that odd.
Okay, you know what? I think we'll leave it right there. That's probably his best. Good to have you all here. Thanks for joining us. Monday on Arizona Horizon, how the U.S. withdrawal from the Paris Climate Agreement could impact the state. And Treasurer Jeff DeWitt updates the Arizona Land Trust Fund. Those stories on the next Arizona Horizon. Tuesday, learn how transportation spending is creating jobs in the Valley. Wednesday, Chandler Mayor J. Tibshraeny discusses how cities fared in the past legislative session. Thursday, we'll discuss former FBI Director James Comey's testimony on Russia and the Trump campaign investigation. And Friday, it's another edition of the Journalists Roundtable. That is it for now. I'm Ted Simons. Thank you so much for joining us. You have a great weekend.
Arizona Horizon is made possible by contributions from the Friends of Arizona PBS, members of your PBS station. Thank you.
And I can't wait to get on the road again, picking Merle.
Last of the Breed, a once-in-a-lifetime event with music legends Willie Nelson, Merle Haggard, and Ray Price, only on PBS.
Tonight at 7:30 on Arizona PBS. Explore new ideas and new worlds here on Arizona PBS, a community service of Arizona State University.
Throughout its history, Arizona PBS and volunteers have enjoyed a rich and rewarding partnership. Whether answering phones during our pledge campaigns, stuffing envelopes, or assisting with special events, volunteering is fun and provides excellent work experience, team building for a group, and a sense of community involvement and importance. If you would like to volunteer, or if you have dropped off our mailing list, we encourage you to call the number on your screen or go online at azpbs.org/volunteer. Thank you.
Coming up next on Arizona PBS, Life and World. When you want to be more connected, friend us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, watch us online. Coming soon to Arizona PBS.
What an honor and a privilege it is to be here at Carnegie Hall.
Join world-renowned platinum-selling blues rock singer-songwriter and guitarist Joe Bonamassa for a very special all-acoustic concert with an all-star ensemble of world-class musicians right here on your favorite public television station.
Thursday night at 7 on Arizona PBS.
I could call you Betty, Betty when